Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. I am one half of your host, Nate Fay, and I've been a licensed massage therapist for over 18 years. I'm also an osteopathic manual therapist, and I've been a longtime teacher for Eric Dalton and the Freedom from Pain Institute, and I'm based in New England.
And hey everyone, I am the other half of your host of Ben and Nate's Questions We Ask People on the Internet. I've been a massage therapist for over 20 years. I've held various positions as a massage therapist, from being an employee to owning my own multi-therapist office. I have a bachelor's degree in communication studies from the University of Nebraska. I love to learn. I'm nationally board certified in therapeutic massage and body work. I also have a small YouTube channel called Benji and the Massage, so if you're ever bored and need something to look at, check that out.
I love it, buddy. And we have a disclaimer alert. Everything that we talk about in this show is of our own sound in mind and our sometimes ridiculousness. It does not represent any business that we work for or teach with.
Disclaimer alert.
That's it, baby. How have you been? It's been a little minute since I've seen you.
It's been a while. We've both been busy with things. And so, yeah, I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. How's life treating you out there, out in Nebraska's?
We're doing good in flyover country. That's what we get called. We don't feel like we're flyover country, but that's what people call us.
Love it. I wouldn't fly past you, buddy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fly past you at all.
How's New England doing?
It's a sunny 52 degrees here in Connecticut, which is a bummer for those that love to ski and snowboard, which is most of the people in my family, with the exception of me. Hey, tell me one good thing that's happened to you in the past couple weeks since I've seen you last.
One good thing that's happened. Wow. There's so many. I'm excited that I've had some time to get out and practice more photography. I know I mentioned that a lot of times, but I'm really enjoying that.
We love seeing your stuff on social media, and I'm not a photographer, but it looks I can just tell, man, you're just getting better and better every time you post something. So congrats on that. You're doing great.
That's I'm not a photographer either. I'm not a massage therapist. There's a lot of things I'm not, but I pretend. And I think that's how we do a lot of things, is you just pretend and make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like being a professional in our practice, or being out on the road teaching seminars. Imposter syndrome, right? That we could talk about another time here. But I've been good too. I was in Costa Rica for a week with my good buddy Eric. Eric led a great presentation out there. It's his 23rd year. It's my 4th year with him. We had a great class of 65 students from around the globe. Weather was great. The food was awesome. And word has it, it's official. We are adding another class in June. So be on the lookout for that one. Otherwise, I'm just getting ready for the holidays. So, hey, we have a special episode this week for everybody. This is Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet.
Special episode alert.
Special episode alert. And this week, I had the idea that Ben and Nate ask each other questions. And I think some people were curious in social media land about our starts and our journeys in the massage field. I think I'm going to lead us off this week, Ben, for a change. Can't be all you all the time, man.
Oh, but I like doing it.
I know. You love doing it. So let's do that today. Let's talk about each other's start and journey and where we've come and where we sort of see ourselves going. I think, you and I are pretty close in age. At the time that I went to school and you went to school, I think most of us at that time, massage was looked at as a second career. So is that the truth for you? Did you have a different career before becoming a massage therapist?
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because I think massage in general is a second or third career choice for people. And what's the statistics I heard? On average, people change their career about every 7 years. Boy, I started right out of high school. I went to the Army for a while. The Army paid for me to go to college. I went to college and got a job. So I've had a couple of careers, and then I realized that I didn't like sitting in a cubicle, and I saw this person doing chair massage, and I'm like, I maybe want to do that. So I looked into massage school when I was 26, 25, something like that.
Awesome. What was massage school for you? What did that look like hour wise and requirement wise?
Yeah, Nebraska, from what I understand, has one of the highest requirements as far as hours go. Minimum, we're required to have 1,000 hours of schooling. Beyond that, it was 24 hours of continuing education to renew our license every 2 years.
That's fantastic. Connecticut at the time that I went was 500 hours. The program that I enrolled in was 680, and Connecticut just probably in the last 3 to 5 years up the requirement to over 700. I think it's 720 now. So we're on our way, but similar in terms of continuing education, it's 24 credits every 2 years. What do you think it's been like for you since the beginning of your career till now? Like, what was it like for you what did it take for you to grow a practice in the beginning? Did you go and work with somebody, for somebody?
You're asking the hard hitting questions. I love it, Nate. I can't wait till I get a chance to return the favor. Massage school 20 years ago was focused on, I'm going to call it, or the school I went to was focused on salon and spa type stuff. So I learned things like how to do body scrub and how to do facials and things like that. And that's what I looked for when I got out of school. I was like, well, I can't start on my own. I need someone who has an established clientele. So I got a job at actually no one would hire me because I was a guy, which is a whole different story.
Yeah.
And I spent 6 months applying to place after place after place. And I got a lot of no's. So I just got out of school for massage. So I started doing in-home massage, and I did that while I was searching for a job. Finally, somebody said yes, because there were two places that wouldn't say no, but they wouldn't say yes either. So I called them every week and I said, hey, did you make a decision yet? And they said, well, we're still not sure. And so I think I wore them down just by my persistence.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I was a musician before becoming a massage therapist, and I went to an alternative high school to study music, to specialize in that. And then I did 2 years at a conservatory studying, deep diving into jazz. I was played upright and electric bass. I still do. And then I went to Hart School of Music, and I spent 4 years there studying classical music. It was probably in my later teen, early 20s that I was starting to play professionally, which was kind of cool. I was like 16 or 17 years old. Connecticut back in the 90s and probably before that had a really thriving music scene, particularly for working musicians. And so I was gigging and making money 5 or 6 nights a week playing music, which was pretty cool. And as a bass player, I was diversified. So I could go play a jazz gig one night. I could go play with an orchestra another night. We had oddly enough, at Hart School of Music, we had our percussion program had an amazing steel drum program. So a lot of the percussionists were well versed in, playing steel drums and pan playing. So we had a steel drum band, a working steel drum band that I played electric bass with. And then when I graduated Hart, I moved. I was 24-ish, I think, and I moved to Pittsburgh, from Connecticut to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I joined this touring off-Broadway show. And I spent a year on the road with them. And then I came back to Connecticut, got married. We'll talk. That's another episode. And then I took some, regular work, and I did a 4-month tour with Broadway show. And it was on that tour, I knew I had to maybe look into something different if I was going to stay married. Of course, some of us know how that story went regardless. And they would bring massage therapists and chiropractors to some of the cities to work with us. And that was like my first real experience getting that work. And when I came back from that tour, I had a good friend who was a musician that was like, hey, I'm going to massage school. Can I practice on you? And I fell in love with it and went to school. And so I was about 26, 27 by the time I finished. And interestingly enough, I actually remember I was one of the youngest people in the class. Do you remember that? Do you remember statistically in your class, were you right in line with everybody age-wise, or?
I was probably a little on the younger side. I remember seeing people at the time that were in their 30s and 40s.
Probably noticed over the past year in some of my seminars, I'm noticing the participants are much younger. I taught a class out in San Francisco, And most folks in that class were first career. That was their initial schooling, going to massage school. And many of them were fresh out of massage school in their early 20s. So I'm not sure if that's just a trend that we're going to start seeing. It's a first career choice.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I'm curious, Nate. Talk to me about what schooling was like for you. What was massage school like?
At the time in Connecticut, we had Connecticut Center for Massage Therapy. And I believe that school was established in the 80s. And I started in 2003. I started, and it was a private college, if you will. It was owned privately. We had a lot of heavy hitting teachers that had come through our school, and CCMT also had a massive continuing education program. At that time, you would get these booklets, these magazines, if you will, announcing all the continuing education for the year. I sort of knew a lot of these names, but I can still remember looking at through these books. And I mean, people like James Woslosky, Bob King, George Casalius were coming through our program. Whitney Lowe was coming through regularly. So in terms of classes, we had over the course of, our program was over 20 months. So it was 2 days a week. So it was a full day on Monday and a half day on Wednesday. And we had, classes like MT1, MT2, MT3. So MT1 was like your basics and understanding all your basic techniques and strokes. We had anatomy classes, which for a guy that only studied music, taking my first anatomy class at 26, 27 was pretty difficult and mind-blowing. Pathology class, we took a pathology class based off of the great work of Ruth Warner, and our MT3 class was based off of Whitney Lowe's work. So we, in hindsight, we got a pretty strong education. What was lacking in our school, and I bet you this is probably a problem across the board, was the business class, and nobody's teaching you how to go out. I mean, at that time, there were no franchises hiring massage therapists. There wasn't going to get a job somewhere. So we weren't taught how to go out and start a business and go in the business for yourself. So I didn't have a clue coming out of school, but we had great foundational work. So great, actually, still as a student, because our continuing education was all the time. I was taking continuing education classes while I was still a student, which was awesome. So I was taking like hot stone classes and how to go deep without using your hands, and just kind of getting immersed into what was sort of out there. So I feel like at the time, CCMT was an incredibly strong school to go to. And all good things come to an end. I think later down the road, well after I graduated, they got bought out and, spot and sold. And I think that there's only Cortiva Institute, I think it is now. Anyhow, that's what that looked like.
That sounds like a really strong foundation in massage and body work. I'm curious, well, where did you go straight out of massage school? Where did you go work?
I was a lost puppy dog, man. I was in this awkward transition in my life. I had gone from being a full-time musician, being on the road, playing 5-6 nights a week, to all of a sudden being homebound, which, when you're young, you don't think about this stuff, but I think it probably, was doing a number on me in terms of, how I felt, emotionally and all that stuff. All of a sudden I was like working part-time for a gym, and I was like, kind of like you in the cubicle. I'm like, what's happening to my life here? And there was no getting a job. Like I said, there was no getting out of massage school and getting a job. I mean, I was like you, I was knocking on doors of chiropractic offices, of spas. I had people blatantly telling me no because I was a male. So, I mean, I was getting those answers, which in hindsight, I should have had a good lawyer at the time too, right? But anyway, that doesn't matter anymore. And believe it or not, I was about 2 years out of school licensed. I was 2 years out of school licensed, and I almost threw the towel in and was just I was making like no money doing it. I couldn't find my way. I didn't know what to do. And I was going to go back to school for something completely different. And I mean, completely different. I was actually going to go back to school and I was interested in funeral directing. Little known fact, I was going to go back to school for funeral directing. I had the application, I was ready to enroll, and out of nowhere, I saw an ad for a chiropractic office right in my town looking for a massage therapist, and I answered the ad. We hit it off. It changed my life, and it was just what I needed at the time. And I met this guy, and he was just all about massage therapy. He got my hands on a ton of bodies in his practice. He taught me everything I know about. He would bring me in the room and get me reading x-rays with him, and he would get my hands on bodies, and he would teach me about how chiropractic assessments and evaluations. And he really just took me under his wing. And I spent about 5 years with him. No, not longer than 5 years. I think I almost spent 8 years with him. And my practice within his clinic just exploded. Of course, at the time, I was taking a bunch of great continuing education classes with people that I love, and, Eric Dalton and Whitney Lowe and James Wozlowski and folks like that, really understanding, how to work with people with pain and assessments and that good stuff. And then my practice, I outgrew being with him. And then I opened up my own doors in 2015. And that's how that went.
That's interesting. You mentioned the funeral directing thing. I mean, don't give up. There may be hope yet.
If there's some guarantees in life, right? People are going to have pain.
Yeah.
And people are going to die. So I mean, either way, business is going to be a booming.
The average career expectancy of a massage therapist is roughly at about 6 years. It might be even less than that. And that's a statistic from about 2010, 2012, I think it was. I see a lot of massage therapists that struggle, and you have talked about it, I've talked about it. Finding a mentor, finding someone to help you, which both Nate and I do mentoring, and I get mentored myself, but finding someone and taking classes. Find something you're interested in. If you're interested in craniosacral work, go dive into classes until you're tired of it, and then do it some more.
That's right, man. And that's right. That's the thing that we can pass on to you. I mean, that was some of the best money that I spent. I started going to somebody and getting mentored, right? Having a coach, if you will. I did that several times. Joining a business networking group, if they have one of those, for those of you that are listening, if they have one of those in your area, I did that for 3 years. Probably if I was to order things like the top 3 best things that I ever did in my career, I would put joining that business networking thing probably tied for first place in terms of a referral network. Get out there and find things. It was an interesting thing, right, Ben? So you and I both had the experience of not getting hired based off of the fact that, we have boy parts, right? And we were told that we were guys and they weren't. I had a chiropractor. I did an interview with one guy, and he flat out told me, he goes, nobody wants a male therapist. That's what he told me. I was told in school, I was told 3 things that I'll never forget. I was told that I would struggle as a male in this field. I was told that I could only see about 20 clients a week on average. And I was told that I would probably last in the field 8 to 10 years before going on to something else. And it sounds like you and I, and I'm sure many of our listeners have defied all those odds. So don't believe the hype out there. Don't believe the hype. I always say I'm not pushing an agenda on anybody. And whatever amount of clients you like to see per week is what you like to see per week. But man, I love seeing, I have a stacked schedule of about 35 to 40 clients a week, and I love it. I don't get tired. My hands don't hurt. I'm not hurting my body. Don't believe it. What about you, Ben?
I'm working on about 20 to 25 people a week. I don't hurt. The hardest part is the mental part. I'm exhausted at the end of the week just from trying to figure out what I'm going to do with people. The great part is I've got someone that I just saw this week, and we look back at where he was 2 years ago and now, and he's still got some aches and pains, but the difference. And I tell him, take a snapshot from where you were at 2 years ago and compare it to now, even though you have these aches and pains. He's like, yeah, I feel tons better. And those are the moments that, I really enjoy.
It's a rewarding career, right? Making that impact on, one client at a time, making an impact with their life.
I'm curious, Nate, when you started off your career being a little lost, how long did it take you before you felt comfortable in, the amount of money you were making, just how you felt in general as in the career,
Yeah.
how you felt? Tell me about that.
I mean, I graduated massage school in 2006, and I mean, again, from 2006 to 2008, I wasn't really doing anything. And then 2008 to 2011, I was making a living. It wasn't amazing, but I was making a living, right? I was comfortable. I was married. My son was born in 2010, and we were doing well, but 2012, man, like I said, joining that networking group, having taken some education classes with the people that I mentioned earlier, like you said earlier, starting to niche myself a little bit into being, and I didn't know what that meant in 2012, right? I mean, 6 years into my career, I didn't know what that meant, but I mean, I was certainly starting to be, the guy that was doing something different in the massage room and, for people that were coming in. And so, yeah, it was 2012, 13 that all of a sudden, like, I think I could go to Disney World this year, in terms of like having money in the bank account. And oh man, I think we can go on a cruise this year and start to reap the rewards of that long journey of like hard work. And then, once I opened up my own practice and then really realized the reward of all of our hard work paying off. So, I mean, it took me a little bit longer. I've always thought that I've been the type of guy in life that takes the slow road with everything anyway. So yeah, that's how it worked out. So it took me a few years, but I don't want people to get scared by that. That was just me.
And not necessarily scared, but don't you think that is in general? Do you pick up the bass guitar and expect to be playing gigs 2 weeks later? Do you, go to funeral directing school and graduate and expect to have a full, a full slate 2 weeks later? You need to put in the time in order to reap the benefits. You have to put in the work. And I think in general, with any career, that's probably between 2 to 5 years.
You're not wrong. And I guess as I was speaking, I wasn't thinking about it that way. Being a musician taught me how to practice. I mean, I would get up at 5, 6 in the morning and get 2 hours of practice in before my first class or 8:30 in the morning. And then on my lunch break, I would practice. And then after my classes were done for the day, I practiced for another 4 hours. That type of hard work and that type of learning how to practice and understand, I think translated, for me in this field. I mean, never took an anatomy class before. Here it was 2003, 2004, took my first academic like class that wasn't a music theory class or a note reading class or whatever. And I had to sit in that library, with bones in my hand and plastic muscles and, for hours on end, to get it into, as Eric says, right, explicit to implicit memory and just have it start pouring out of me. So yeah, you're not wrong, man. And I think, yeah, so I'll change what I said about being scared, but put in the work and know that it's going to pay off, the grind.
You mentioned practice, and I love this. As a musician, when are you done practicing?
Never.
And so let's take that over into the realm of sports. You win the national championship or the world championship. When do you stop practicing?
Yeah, never.
So then can we take that into the world of massage? Now you've been doing massage for 20 years. When do you stop practicing, or how does practicing evolve now that you are at a certain level? What does practicing look like now for you versus what it looked like, 15 years ago?
Yeah, completely different. And I think about, I'm sure you do too. I think about like what my massage might have like looked like. I mean, it's not a routine. I don't do routines, but I can only imagine what it looked like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And man, we thought we were the best, right? I'm the best ever. It's probably like really sloppy. But what does practice look like now? I mean, practice to me looks like, I think a little different now, right? I think from a technical aspect, we talked about this on our last episode. I like finding different ways of doing things or adaptations as far as techniques, but techniques I'm always interested in, but less interested in now as I'm more interested in how to communicate with people, how to listen to people, understanding, concepts of pain, pain so complicated, what people are going through there. So practicing now looks like cracking books and podcasts and taking classes in the realm of, almost probably edging on the like psychology end of things, right? And thinking about that sort of stuff. And that's what practicing looks like to me these days. The world of massage, right, and manual therapy has evolved in terms of how we think, how we approach people, what we say to people, how our work, what we used to think our work did versus what we think our work does now. And you and I are going to be 65, 70 years old, and we'll probably be having this conversation again, and it'll be probably completely different.
So I want to run something by you, because you bring up a good point. Is the things that we understand have evolved. What we thought was helpful 2 years ago, 5 years ago, has changed, and now we approach it differently. I'm going to throw something out there. How much has the actual application of the work changed versus just the understanding of what we think it does underneath the tissues?
Great question. I mean, if you crack open an old osteopathy book by like Philip Greenman or some of the early writings of A.T. Still, we're doing the same thing from 120 years ago and have probably just relabeled it, rewritten it, put a different title on it, but man, we're still doing the same stuff from a technical aspect.
It's the story in our heads that we're telling ourselves, oh, it's going to do this versus what, it's going but it's the exact same thing that we're applying on the body, which I feel is fascinating. And part of me is like, why do I need to keep learning if I'm just doing the same thing?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, if the days before our time, trigger points, fascia, muscles, nerves, right? There's that old image that I see going around on social media, and it shows 6 different people. And I think there's like the elephant in the room, and it's like, I think it's his fascia. I think it's his emotional state. I think it's his, and we're still sort of there. We're going to be there forever. It'd be interesting if some of these folks were still alive. Like if we could do a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and go pick some of these folks up and show them what the current world of manual therapy looks like. But yeah, we're still doing the same thing, but growth, right? Growth. I think I'm big into the communication and listening aspect now. And I've noticed, right, even more growth, as if like I couldn't grow anymore, you couldn't grow anymore. It's pretty exciting to see client and patient response with some of the different ways that I'm approaching people, but still doing the same technique. Still doing that unilateral neck stretch on people every single day, but just talking about it a little bit differently.
How effective would those applications of techniques be without the story behind it? What if we didn't talk to anybody at all, didn't tell them what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, just worked on them? That would change the effectiveness of the work, right?
I think it would, because I think that before I got into that stuff, it was probably like 2017 or 18. I opened up my social media page one day and I stumbled upon a Facebook page. I'm not going to say what it is. And I was like, wait a minute, all these people are saying everything that we talk about as massage therapists is wrong. And I felt like sad. I was like, I bet. And again, I had that moment of wanting to quit again. I felt like my whole life was a lie in terms of what I was doing in my treatment room. But then I started to embrace what they were saying and talking about, and then started to read about it a little bit more. Yeah. So back to the technique thing, back to your question, the people that might have this narrative of you can't help me, or yeah, I only felt a little bit better after that visit. I noticed when I started to change my dialogue with them, all of a sudden they were like, oh man, I felt so much better. Or you're the only one that helps me. You're the only one that listens to me. I trust you. The feedback from people changed. The feedback completely changed. It went from I feel taller and I feel looser to, and people still say that, to I trust you. You listen to me. You hear me out. I know what to do when I come and see you.
And how does that change? Is it who we see or what we have done to us that's most helpful?
Ooh, wow. What do you think, Ben? I'm gonna throw the Uno reverse card.
I think I know how you would answer, and I think it's more about the person and finding the right person for you, right? And the right person for you may be the person that has the attitude, I'm the only person that can fix you. I know this, this, and this, and I'm going to do this because I was taught this, and everything is black and white, concrete. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I say, hey, we're going to do some things. It might help. It might not. We're going to see if we can connect to what's giving you issues. And some people don't like that. Some people want to be told that they're going to be fixed. Some people want the process. It's just finding that person. That's what I believe, is finding the person that's right for you. That person has to be confident and competent in what they're doing, but finding the right person, that's it for me.
I think that I could probably speak for you too, right? It's getting to a point in your career, and we talked about this last time, right? Getting to a point in your career where you can choose, your clients choose you, but you can also choose your clients. And it's hearing that stuff. It's really understanding how to hear that stuff at the phone call. Right. When someone calls your office, you can kind of weave what they're really looking for versus when they come in and I have them tell their story and give me some background on them. And I can sort of hear what they're looking for. And I can make that decision like, great, let's take this to the next step and let me take you through some movements and let me take a look at you and let's start applying some techniques together, versus sometimes I say, I don't think I'm the person for you. I don't think I can help you. And while there's that moment of disappointment and awkwardness, I think that I'm potentially avoiding a bigger problem. And that's a good thing to say to people, man, I don't think I can help you.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's totally fair, right? Listen for those red flags when they're telling their story. I've been everywhere. I've tried everything and nobody's been able to help me. That is a red flag. When people say that, take off your superhero cape and don't think I'm going to be the one to help you. The chances of you being able to help that person, you're just going to be another notch in their belt. And it's sad, but it's the reality.
Well, let me ask you this, Nate. What does the future of Nate Massage Therapy or Hazardville Wellness look like in the next, 5 years?
Well, that's interesting. I don't know. I love being in my treatment room. I could safely say that. My treatment room is my second home. I love being in that room. I never had interest in growing a multi-therapist practice. I never had an interest in that. I never had an interest in bringing somebody on to sort of replicate me, right, and what I do. You can't do that anyway. You can't teach somebody how to be you. You're unique, right? Everybody that's listening to this, you're unique. We're all special little flowers here. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I split my time between my practice and, I'm on the road an average of about it looks like I'm on the road about eight to 10 times a year presenting for Eric. The seminar business, took off for me in ways that I didn't expect it to take off. I don't know what's next. I think if 5 years from now, if I'm still in my room full time and presenting, I think I'm going to be super happy with that. I do want to get my book done. I'm writing a book. I want to get that thing done.
We'll have our listeners hold you accountable to finishing the book. Yeah. So if you're out there, check in with Nate in a couple weeks and see where he's at, if he's got the next chapter written in his book.
I've got 3 chapters written. My goal is 7. And I've got 3 written. And then somebody's going to have to edit the stuffing out of it because, grammar isn't my strong points.
Yeah, we talk good enough.
Use talk good enough. What about you, buddy? What does the next 5 years look like for you?
That's interesting because last year at this time, I just sold my multi-therapist practice. I sold my share in that. And I'm deciding what I want to do. Initially, what I thought would have been great with the multi-therapist practice was the ability to coach and mentor massage therapists. It's not really what it turned out to be. And I want to share what I know. Like you said, I don't want to make copies of myself. I want to share what I've learned over the last 20 years so that people don't have to struggle and do what I did and take 5 years to learn a lesson, and just share little things that I know to help people flourish and progress.
I read an article about 2 years ago. It was in the New York Times, and it was I think it was not a front page, but a pretty big article about, because of COVID and the pandemic, that massage therapy was going to, boom. in terms of like practitioners and teachers. And on one hand, yeah, I mean, I've seen how much more time is in the day. But I mean, in terms of like massage therapists that I speak to, including myself, I mean, how could you be any busier? So it'll be interesting in 5 years to see what schools do, folks out there taking continuing education and how that continues to change. If you and I look back at the start of our career to how much massage has changed in the past 18 to 20 years, it's unbelievable. It really is. There you have it. That's Ben and Nate's start and journey through the world of massage. So here's what we want you, the listeners, to do. We want you to listen, follow, and like our podcasts, right? Good old social media algorithm kind of put us down a little bit since we created this business page. So we need you guys to follow and like and message us questions that you want us to discuss. But for this particular podcast, we want you to comment below and tell us about your journey and tell us what you think the next 5 years of your career is going to look like. This show only happens with you, the listeners, because it is Ben and Nate's questions that we ask people on the internet, and you are on the internet.
And you are also people, so we want to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning in this week for our special episode number 8. We will see you next time.